anyone working on protein engineering today is, I think, by now aware of these technologies. And we do see that now is the time to adopt them, right? If you don't, then you will get left behind. So staying updated on what is being published is really important, but also understanding which questions to ask. So coming back to what I said earlier, predict experimental outcomes. Can they help to generate new proteins? Can they help to balance across multiple properties? And how are they benchmarked is all super important.
Welcome back to part 2 with Elise de Reus from Cradle. As we continue exploring protein design and its revolutionary impact on what's possible before we even reach the bioreactor, you are in for incredible insights. If part 1 opened your eyes to AI-driven protein engineering, this deep dive covers real-world applications from sustainability solutions to biotherapeutics, partnerships with industry giants, plus practical advice for biotech scientists ready to embrace AI's protein design revolution. Let's discover what's next in programmable biology. Are you juggling the complexities of CMC development while trying to enjoy the beauty of biotech? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to simplify bioprocessing? Welcome to the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast, where we're diving headfirst into the very challenges you face. We're breaking it down, demystifying the jargon, and giving you the keys to unlock your full potential. I'm your host, David Brühlmann, and I get it. With 15 plus years in the biotech industry, I face the same challenges you do. There's a way to simplify and streamline so you can remove complexity, you can skip trials and errors, deliver without delay your groundbreaking therapy to clinics and market, and still enjoy every single step. Do you want to learn how industry experts and I did it? Grab a cup of coffee and your favorite notebook and pen. Now is the time to take your bioprocessing game to the next level. Let's smarten up biotech. One other aspect when you're using these rapidly changing technologies is the further development. You need to keep going, you need to tweak. There's a lot going on and you are leveraging a lot of partnerships. Can you elaborate a bit on how you're leveraging this intense network of partners and how it allows you to further develop your technology?
So many teams of scientists use Cradle across different industries. So in pharma, teams like Novo Nordisk and at Johnson & Johnson, but also in the agriculture space, Corteva Catalyst, Enzymes, IFF, and Novonesis. And with all the projects that are running on Cradle, of course, data stays private and models stay private. But we get really great feedback from all these brilliant scientists, whether wet lab or computational, on what they would like to use Cradle for, how they are evaluating the results and the behavior of these models, and helping us to optimize and improve the platform so that it delivers really good results consistently, but also offers insights to help scientists interpret what these models are learning and how they are behaving and whether the program's moving in the right direction. So kind of opening up that black box. And so the fact that Cradle runs all these different projects across all these different teams ultimately helps to improve the level of performance of these models, as well as the interaction between the human scientist and the AI.
And while working with all kinds of companies from different areas, what are some common challenges you have identified? I mean, they come to you with specific questions to help you design a specific protein. What are some common themes or some common challenges you're observing?
One central challenge is multi-property optimization. So there are very few projects run on Cradle where scientists only care about improving one property. And that is immediately one of the core reasons to use generative ML, because you can imagine that rational design it's much harder for in rational design to balance all these different objectives. Besides multi-property optimization, there is a lot of education still needed. So a lot of questions on how much data is needed to work effectively with these technologies and what is the quality of data that is needed to work effectively to train models. So we at Cradle have also helped in conversations or by providing insights on when models are performing well given a certain quantity or quality of data and when maybe the models are performing less well. So this can trigger kind of reassessing workflows at the scientist side to say, how can we maybe change little things about how we collect data to help machine learning models learn more effectively and generate better designs? And that could be as simple as making sure that all the negative data points are also captured consistently, or that controls are included in a certain way. I think a final point that comes to mind is scaling. So how to make sure that these new technologies can scale within organizations. So how to make sure that it's not just one or two or three projects that can leverage generative AI, but that all the different programs that are running in which protein engineering is happening can all benefit from ML. And this is a challenge when there is just an in-house team of machine learning engineers who have to spend their time not just using models to predict outcomes or generate new proteins, but also figuring out the data organization, like where it lives, how it's collected, explaining what is going on in these models, understanding the objectives, and working with wet lab scientists across all these different programs. And so how we see our customers use Cradle is there are still machine learning engineers and computationalists very actively involved in projects, but now they are freed up to do a lot of creative work because some of the other components are taken care of by the Cradle platform, where all these different users or different stakeholders in these projects can work together at the same time.
To a biotech scientist who's now considering implementing AI, what would be your advice to them, Elisa? Where should they start and how should they think about AI as a tool in their toolkit?
It's a really pressing question. Anyone working on protein engineering today is, I think, by now aware of these technologies. And we do see that now is the time to adopt them, right? If you don't, then you will get left behind. So staying updated on what is being published is really important, but also understanding which questions to ask. So coming back to what I said earlier, predict experimental outcomes. Can they help to generate new proteins? Can they help to balance across multiple properties? And how are they benchmarked is all super important.
Now, as we zoom out a bit, you're doing all this with a big why. You have a big mission and to change health and sustainability. So can you tell us a bit what is driving you? And then also looking forward in the future, what are your priorities as a company in the next few months, in the next couple of years? What kind of protein types are you going to be working on, or industries?
Yeah, so personally, I really believe that biology will be a critical ingredient in moving the world towards a more sustainable system. And also, as the population ages, making sure that we have the right therapies and also for those therapies to reach patients across the world. So also equitable access. At Cradle, we are continuing to invest in adding capabilities, so supporting all the different types of proteins that scientists might want to engineer and all the different properties that they might want to engineer for. So expanding capabilities and expanding or improving the interaction of scientists with the Cradle platform so that it can serve all these different use cases and all these different protein engineering projects that are ongoing. And some areas that I'm super excited about are, for example, critical raw materials. So how can proteins play a role in biomining, for example, but also anti-venom against snake bites, another super cool area, or pandemic preparedness. So having vaccines that are already cross-reactive to different types of viral strains to be prepared in case of new arising pandemics.
That's exciting. I'm curious, Elisa, because as an industry, as a biological industry, we're moving away from traditional maps. We see now multi-specifics and all kinds of fancy molecules. What lies ahead of us? Are we going even further away? We have more crazy protein structures, or are we in a consolidation phase?
The ultimately program managers and heads of therapeutic areas will see which modalities are working for their therapeutic applications. There's no limit, I think, to the creativity of scientists and different ways and protein approaches that are being explored. And the challenge for Cradle is to deliver results consistently, but also to be able to help demystify where maybe ML is not ready to play a part, and being realistic also about the limitations.
Yeah, and could it be that the limitations will be more and more on the host cell side because certain molecules will just not be manufacturable? Probably. That's what my thinking is. There's probably, with AI, you have so many new possibilities and you can manufacture them, but are they really then viable from an economic point of view? I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, that's an important calculation to make economic viability. Yeah, host cell systems, targets that are harder to drug, figuring out new ways to drug them. I could see different limitations.
Now, I would like to just change a bit gear and also talk about your journey a bit, cycling back to where we started. You're not just a scientist anymore. You're also part of the co-founders and leading a company. So I always love to have this kind of conversations. So what was your biggest aha moment or surprise, actually, as you were moving away from purely being a scientist now to leading a company and having a more business mindset? And what would be some advice you could give to someone who's also now starting a new company?
I have been very positively surprised by the realization that a bigger mission actually makes for an easier journey, which sounds counterintuitive, but solving a really big problem also makes it easier in a way to attract talent and funding and also stay motivated throughout the journey. This also includes a bit of technical courage. So rather than shipping your PhD, trying to commercialize the technology that you might have spent 3 to 6 years working on already, taking a more problem-first approach to identify what do you actually want to work on, what is a problem that is worth solving and that people care about and would be willing to pay for. And that means it's important to get feedback early on as well. So talk to a lot of people about maybe sandbox ideas and whether those you're looking for feedback on your technical idea or on the structure of your company or business model. It's so valuable to get input early. And maybe looping back to the beginning of the conversation, that's not always so obvious for scientists in the biotech industry, because I think we are trying to be a little bit more secretive and maybe put NDAs in place before we discuss anything. And what I found in the Cradle journey is that getting a lot of input from a lot of different sources early on, when you're still maybe even a little bit embarrassed about your ideas or your lack of understanding about certain areas of the problem, is so helpful because it helps to point you to things that you might be overlooking or solutions that you hadn't thought about or people you could learn from.
Yeah, this is excellent advice because I've seen too many ideas that were great in the lab, great technology, but then nobody bought it. So I think start with the end in mind, develop something that people really need, and then develop that, not just something that sounds very fancy and looks good on paper.
Yeah, and ask all the uncomfortable questions early, like the questions that nag at you, ask them, because the best time to find out that your problem might not be viable is sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. That's so key. So this has been great, Elisa. Thank you for sharing your passion, your insights with all that we've covered today. What is the most important takeaway from our conversation?
I think the most important takeaway would be that if you're feeling overwhelmed at the amount of different papers and models being published on a weekly basis, you're not alone. And there is so much movement in this field, but now is really the time to get involved, because if you don't start deploying these technologies, you will very likely get left behind. So engage in the field, follow where the results and the outcomes are happening beyond maybe the shiny academic papers, but like where are you seeing these technologies really hit real world applications, and form a strategy based on that. That would be my advice to those working in the life science industry and interacting with protein design today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Elisa. Where can people get a hold of you?
They are welcome to check out our website, cradle.bio. Reach out to us on LinkedIn as well.
Excellent. I will leave all the links in the description below. So smart biotech scientists, please reach out to Elisa and her team. And Elisa, thank you very much for being on the show today and sharing so much about what's going on in generative AI. And I'm very much looking forward to where this is going to in the next couple of months and couple of years.
I am too. Absolutely. And thank you for having me, David.
Absolutely. It was a huge pleasure. Thank you so much. These were remarkable insights from Elise de Reus on AI-powered protein engineering and entrepreneurship. From surprising applications to practical AI integration advice, we have explored how Cradle is making biology programmable. Remember, incorporating AI doesn't have to be overwhelming. And do you need guidance on your CMC development journey? Well, schedule your free consultation at BrühlmannConsulting.com and let's accelerate your development timelines and reduce costly iterations. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Please leave a review on the platform you found us on, and I will see you next time. All right, smart scientists. That's all for today on the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on your journey to bioprocess mastery. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. By doing so, we can empower more scientists like you. For additional bioprocessing tips, visit us at smartbiotechscientist.com. Stay tuned for more inspiring biotech insights in our next episode. Until then, let's continue to smarten up biotech.